Well, Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky has said he is ready to meet his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin this week in Turkey.
This is for talks after US President Donald Trump said that direct talks were needed to determine whether an end to the ongoing conflict is even possible.
Well, Zelensky had earlier said Kyiv was open to talks with Russia, but only after a ceasefire was in place.
At a meeting in Kiev on Saturday, European leaders urged Russia to agree to an unconditional 30-day truce with Ukraine. However, Putin's offer of direct talks followed that intervention. Moscow has still not committed to abiding by the 30-day ceasefire proposed by European powers on Saturday, and this is obviously following the 3-day truce that Russia had suggested, which was not accepted by Kiev.
On Sunday, the Russian president proposed direct negotiations to end the conflict in Ukraine, but did not address a 30-day ceasefire proposal drawn up by European allies of Kyiv. Speaking at the Kremlin in the early hours of Sunday, Putin proposed direct talks with Ukraine in Istanbul on May 15th, hours after Kyiv and the leaders of France, Germany, Britain and Poland had called for an unconditional 30-day ceasefire to start on Monday.
We are determined to have serious negotiations with Ukraine. Their purpose is to eliminate the root causes of the conflict and establish long-term, lasting peace with a historical perspective. We do not exclude that during these negotiations it will be possible to agree on some new truces, a new ceasefire.
Meanwhile, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov has made it clear that arms deliveries from Ukraine's allies would have to stop for a ceasefire to come into place. Peskov also added that Russia will not accept European security forces and peacekeepers inside Ukraine.
Speak about ceasefire. What are we going to do with the shipments of weapons coming every day from the United States and from European countries?
So you want those weapons stopped?
We cannot allow NATO's military infrastructure to get that close to our borders.
On the other hand, U.S. President Donald Trump has asked Ukraine to accept Moscow's offer to meet this week in Istanbul to negotiate for a possible end to the ongoing bloodbath, as he calls it.
French President Emmanuel Macron, too, insisted on the necessity for a ceasefire prior to talks between Russian and Ukrainian sides. Now, Kiev's allies pressed Russia to accept a 30-day unconditional ceasefire in Ukraine, threatening Moscow with coordinated sanctions if it did not agree to the demand. The ultimatum came during a joint press conference in Kiev attended by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and the leaders of France, Germany, UK and Poland. But this follows the 3-day ceasefire that Russia proposed only to gauge Ukraine's consideration for a longer ceasefire, which Ukraine rejected.